place to be is living free in Tennessee.
Welcome to Living Free in Tennessee, where we talk about building the life you choose on your terms. Today is Friday, June 27th, 2025. And I actually don't know what episode number this is today for some reason. And my first segment involves my friend here who you can't see, the Tactical Redneck. So I see him running around outside trying to get in here. I don't think he realized what time it was. So when he comes in, I will ask him the question. Before we do that, though, I wanted to talk about our featured event of today's show. And the event is the rabbit meetup and processing demo at the Holler Homestead. It's on Sunday at 1 p.m. It's in Lancaster, Tennessee. For some reason, people are not finding that on the event thing. So Lancaster, Tennessee at the Holler Homestead. Holler Homestead should have an address associated with it. And that is at livingfreeintennessee.com if you want to sign up for it. I want to also thank two sponsors for today's show. The first sponsor is the Wealthsteading Podcast. John Pugliano of the Wealthsteading Podcast is like a homesteader, only like for your money, right? So he talks about how he's making investment decisions, how current events impact his investment decisions. And the real answer is a lot of times they don't necessarily, or they don't in the way you think that they do. So if you want to learn more about investing and get better at making your money, make you money sort of thing, or just, learn the industry, check it out, thewealthstudyingpodcast.com. The second sponsor of today's show is the Self-Reliance Festival. That's right. The 9th Self-Reliance Festival is coming up October 4th and 5th in Camden, Tennessee at Birdsong Marina. And we are rolling out speakers, having a good time over at selfreliancefestival.com. Get your tickets before prices go up. With that, it is time for me to ask the Tactical Redneck the first question of the show, which he ran in here to do. How do you like working in the cool of the morning?
It's pretty legit right now.
Yeah. Would you describe this morning's cool of the morning activities as cool?
Better than the last couple of days.
Yeah. So I kind of had that on there, and I'm going to double check our audio is right. Ooh, look. I bet our sound is suddenly way better. I was on the wrong microphone. So we worked in the cool of the morning to get ready for the event and get caught up on outside tasks today. And as you can tell, he just took a shower.
Bath, actually.
Okay. He just took a bath after that. So that's why he was almost late. And it was not a cool morning. I like to call it working in the less hot of the morning. Also, you should be careful because Dixie's been vomiting all over the floor for the last 3 minutes while we've been doing this. Yeah, my cat probably needs to go to the veterinarian. But
right now the cat wants outside.
But there's this like, if you see in the background, that is a paper towel over the vomit so it can like soak up the liquid, and then I can clean it right after the show. But she like literally just like, we're starting projectile vomit, of course. And that's part of the fun.
Literally all over.
Yeah, no, she walked around the whole house.
I can see that now.
I'm going to be mopping this floor later today again. Yeah. So Packrat said either was fine. The other had more room presence. The audio is more flat. Yeah, well, and that echo is kind of annoying when you're in your car. So anyway, as you guys know, we hit a heat wave, and it's been knucking futz this week about temperature. And everything has just sort of revolved around, does everybody have water? Are we having a heat stroke ourselves? And, he's been going short bursts and cooling down, but also we've done more work in the mornings and evenings than in the middle of the day. Would you say that's about right?
Yeah, it's bad when I don't want to be outside.
Yeah. Like even in the evening, we like usually sit around the fire pit without a fire in it and just sort of like after dinner, chat, read, whatever.
Yeah.
And I was like, yeah, I'll be inside in the air conditioning if you want to talk to me. That's what I did yesterday, right?
Yeah, I mean, just in the few minutes that I was outside before I came up here, I'm already like starting to sweat through this shirt.
Yeah. Nice new shirt, by the way.
Yeah, about that.
It took him like 4 months to find new shirts that were long enough because he's a tall dude with an extra long torso. And he finally did not find one in the color he wanted. So he got green instead of gray and bought like how many? 10, 7?
Like 8.
Yeah. So, and we were on this like panic laundry cycle because he had a total of 5 shirts, which meant if one was on, 4 were not on. And if 2 were dirty, we were getting towards the range of it won't hang out on the line and dry. So I swear I was doing your laundry every 2 days.
Probably.
Yeah. Yeah. So anyway, that's the deal. Okay. So we have a grand experiment to run by you guys. And we're going to give you a view of a week in the life at the Holler Homestead. And the reason I'm doing this is people are like, oh, you're so busy, blah, blah, blah. How do you do it all? And it's not tidy. It's not quiet. It is productive, though. And sometimes it's chaotic. And like part of the purpose of this show is to show you what's going on the homestead once a week, let you ask questions. But we're going to give you, I made a slideshow of the week. You ready for this? You're in the slideshow, dude.
Okay.
I thought we'd just kind of go through a week on the Holler Homestead. So I'm going to change the view so it's all, is there a way to do that? Yeah, all the presentation. Anyway, so here we go. A week at the Holler Homestead. And I'm going to have to, you guys have to like bear with me while I figure out what to do with my life here. Okay. So it started out on Sunday. Sunday, a big old heat wave came in and I was aware, and you guys have been hearing me talking about there's no shade structure over the raised beds. And Tactical's parents were in town and they're like, can we help with something? And so this ridiculous heat showed up and they went to the store and grabbed the PVC because I was like, rather than build the awesome long-term plan of making posts out of trees and whatever that's going to look really cool, we kind of got to get the shade up now because my plants were suffering. So we didn't have the shade structure. And so Tactical's mom and I worked on cutting the pieces of PVC and putting them in. And of course, you can see on the right, there's Tactical trying to get one piece in. So we got all of the pieces of PVC in the corners of the bed, except for this one corner. What did you have to do to get that corner in?
I took another fiberglass post and found something in between whatever was in there and basically used the fiberglass post to ream a hole out.
Yeah, as you can see, we were working on the less hot morning on this one, and I'm sure all of us were soaking wet by the time the project was done. It took maybe an hour to get the frames up, and then the next day in the evening, Tactical and I hung the shade cloth in a less hot evening. Did you want to shower after that?
I pretty much want to shower just looking at the outside right now.
Yeah, so the ridiculous heat is a thing. And that had to happen over a couple of days. We could have like busted it out in the middle of the day, but it's not worth getting heat stroke over. Speaking of heat stroke, I was roasting in the heat of the day with no air conditioning in the roasting shack. And of course, the sheep got out. So there I was roasting. And what you don't know about the roaster is that it's like 120 plus degrees in there right now, which is why we have the HVAC pre-buy at Holler Roast. And about halfway through, the sheep jumped the fence, and I went out to help Tactical and his dad wrangle them, which is to say they took care of it. But I interrupted my roasting because you didn't really need me.
Yeah.
And one of our neighbors caught a picture of one of the rams reading the sign that is like the agritourism sign, which is also the sheep that I'm pretty sure you threw over the fence.
Yeah, I had to add that to my bucket list just so I could cross it off.
Tell us how that one went.
It actually wasn't bad. I was trying to get him to go back in the direction of the driveway, and he refused. And we played ring around the four-wheeler for a minute, and then I got a hold of him. And I was about to pick him up and get on the four-wheeler with him, and I was like, let me see if I can just hold him over the fence, and got him basically over the fence, and he jumped and landed inside the fence, and I was like, cool. That saved a little bit of effort.
Yeah, and so this is like a typical day on the homestead. I think I know what I'm going to do, and then I end up getting interrupted in the middle of what I'm going to do, and then I have to get back to it. So from a holler roast standpoint, that meant like I started the morning orders, got interrupted, came out, talked to you about the fence. Like, why didn't the fence work? And then I found out there's all this stuff on the fence that needs some repair to get them a good zap. So the problem was that they weren't getting zapped if they got out. And then I can't just pick up where I left off. So it's kind of like if you get interrupted in the middle of a deep think, like it takes a minute to ramp back up. And my roaster needs to warm up before I can do dark roast. And that day I had all dark roast. So I had to do a random medium roast, which means, especially in the winter time, if I get interrupted, there can be a lot of extra medium roast around for holler neighbor use, or, it just is what it is. And then right after, so I went back to roasting, and then we kind of divided and conquered. You went and started working on fencing. This isn't specifically the fence you worked on, but that was the best picture of fencing I had from you this week.
Yeah.
So yeah, he went and figured it out. And the fence, I noticed, is shocking sheep now, right?
As far as I know.
Yeah. So that's back up and running. And then there was the evening redneck gift. So Tactical has been going up into the pasture, and blackberries are coming on, aren't they?
Yep.
Yeah. And he thought he was going to get more. So this is the first time he did it. The second time he did it, he got more than this. And then passion flower is starting to come on. So we've been collecting them and drying them for tea, unless you've been using them fresh in tea.
I've used a couple fresh, but not a lot, like once or twice.
Yeah, and you're using that to just sort of make yourself sleepy at night?
Yeah, I used that one right before I go to bed.
So that was, a close to the day. And then we, of course, had our morning ritual and focus on starting to get ready for the event we have this weekend, which is sort of like midweek workshop prep, deliveries, all sorts of stuff is going on. So this next series of things isn't all in one day. It's a combination of 2 days, but here's kind of how the trajectory typically goes, where we start with a quiet cup of coffee in the morning. And as you can see, that's a solo cup. There is not a redneck with me when I'm having my quiet cup of coffee. Is there a Nicole with you when you're having yours?
No.
Is there a dog with you, though?
Usually.
Yeah, so he has a cup of coffee with his dog. I have a cup of coffee, and reading happens. And if we don't do this first thing in the morning, it will never happen again that day.
No.
So then he comes up, and we had agreed to start using the less hot of the morning to clean up under Taj Mahal, because Taj Mahal is on the south side of my house. And when it gets hot outside and in the afternoon, it's really hot under there.
Yeah, even with the shade cloth.
Even with the shade cloth. So we jumped into cleaning Taj Mahal and the carport to start getting ready for the workshop. That went pretty well.
Yeah.
Also, in the morning yesterday, you did a dump run. So that involved like finding all the things around, because whenever there's constructions, there's like piles of things related to construction that need to go. So we had like the leftover debris. We didn't want that here when people were here. Plus, with his parents in town, he didn't do his usual Saturday dump run because first we were at Amani's, so we didn't do that Saturday. And then he would have normally done that Monday, but he wanted to spend time with his parents, and it was oven.
Yeah. So, I mean, by that point, all the trash cans were full. Like, all the trash cans were full. There was a pile of cardboard. There was a pile of construction stuff. There was a couple other random things scattered about. So it took me a bit to get everything together to actually do that.
And then for the rest of the day, he was basically worn out from that because it was 99 degrees out and humid.
Yeah,
he poked at stuff, but that was his major accomplishment, because it's like loading the truck, driving the truck, unloading the truck, driving the truck back. And if it's hot out, even though the truck has air conditioning, it's just hot.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I, on the other hand, wasn't spent, so I had the morning ritual plus canning beets, which I did outside. And of course, in the middle of this happening, we had been waiting all day to find out when my bags, I had 420 bags, 120-pound bags of coffee beans being delivered. And usually the truck driver calls me half an hour to 45 minutes before.
Yeah.
This time he said, "Hey, I'm at the top of your road. That looks scary." That's what he told me. And I was like, he's like, "Can I come down that?" And I was like, "Well, yeah, you can come down that, but we'll just come up and get it." And I had literally just started the timer on the beets for 30 minutes for the pickled beets, which I'm doing outside to keep the heat outside, right? So I'm hoping that the water stays boiling and I don't come back and find out the gas has gone out or something and have to start over. And I am hoping we can get this done in faster than half an hour. It took us 12 minutes to drive up the road, get the bag. I don't know. What did I interrupt you in the middle of yesterday? When I was like, we got to go now, because I was like, you've got to stop everything because I got to get back before the beets are done.
I don't remember what I was doing. I think I was doing something with plants or something.
Yeah, you were probably working on your rock garden, which we'll talk about later in the show. So he stopped, he dropped everything, jumped in the car. We get the beans, we unload the beans, and I had heard a pop right as I was walking out. And I'm like, "No, that noise, that's the sound of a jar breaking." And this jar you see floating there is pickled beets broken. So if you're canning and that happens to you, what you need to do is just keep on canning them. And this is, of course, is a picture after the batch was done and I'd already taken a couple jars out so you could kind of see more what was going on in there because the water level was up over the lids before. You just have to not worry about it and realize you're going to have sticky jars with beet brine all over when they come out, but the rest of the jars were fine. I used tongs to take the jars out and then I just left it to cool down. Luckily, I wasn't trying to rhinoceros out a second load. And then I pour that liquid through a colander to catch all of the, like I took the obvious floating broken glass out, pour it through a colander because you don't know what little bits of glass will be in there. And you don't want those going down into your drain and cutting your hands or on the ground or anything. So I pour it through a colander and then I threw all of that into the trash can. I didn't even put it in the compost for the reason that I don't want glass in the compost, right? That's just like,
preferable.
yeah, so lots of that. So there's beets in the trash, by the way.
Okay.
Yeah. And then the liquid could go, I have an outdoor sink, so it went out the drain as part of that. And that all happened because, that just like the jars aren't what they used to be. And so once we had that done, we both went our separate ways. I got my swim spa workout in. You did something. And by the way, yesterday, after all that mess, a swim spa workout was amazing. And then we did dinner from the ground up, which at 5:00, I went to the garden. And that's like on the left there, that's a picture of the garden. And that's perilla at the very bottom. That's not actually in the bed. That's around the edge of the bed. It looks a little chaotic, but that's because I interplant. So that's like carrots and Swiss chard. And if what you can't see is off to the right of that picture is one of my peppers. But I was like assessing how much the heat had hit the Swiss chard because we didn't have shade cloth in. And I was cutting out any bad leaves. I was harvesting stuff for dinner and I was doing it barefoot to have sort of like grounding with the earth as part of it. And then that got processed into the saute you see on the right, which includes some fennel and the Swiss chard and squash and onions and all sorts of stuff. And we ate dinner around 7. So it was just me, the soil, and the plants. And that was probably my favorite part of the day.
Oh.
Yeah. Meanwhile, what were you doing during that time?
I don't remember.
Yeah, he doesn't remember. So dinner was on the table by 7. We actually, we could have had dinner by 6:30. It would have usually taken an hour and a half. I had the extras like from the harvest washed and put in the fridge for tomorrow. And we ate at 7 just because Nighthawk came over to visit for dinner. And we wanted to make sure that we had all of that ready to go for him and wait for him and eat together and get to hang out. So that was kind of fun. Anyway, that's like typically how we flow into doing, whatever we're going to do, which again, it sounds chaotic, but have you felt frantic this week?
Only because I'm not getting anywhere near as much done as I would like to.
Yeah, but you don't feel like, oh my gosh, I can't stop.
No.
So, and that's the thing, is we always feel like we're not getting enough done, but you have to just go one thing at a time as best you can. And one thing flows into the next thing and to the next thing. People really think like homestead living is chaotic because they hear stories like that. But there is a rhythm to that process. Part of it has to do with the sun and the moon and the night and the day. Some of it has to do like we move things around if it's hot or if it's cold. And everything we do, from roasting coffee to gardening to even chasing sheep, is part of the connection of the different systems to each other. And that's just how it works.
Yeah,
but it always starts in one way. And really insisting on that moment with the coffee in the morning really helps. What were you going to say?
People have a perception that a homestead is utter chaos. And it's like, yes, the goats were out the other day. How long has it been since the goats got out?
Oh, a long time.
Like a while. So you hear about one incident and think that the whole year has been utter goat chaos. It's like, no, not really. It's like we had 2 little 10-minute interruptions of goats sitting on the side of the house.
Yeah. She's not really keen on getting on my roof anymore.
She's getting old.
Yeah, she is getting old. So I don't know. If you guys like that kind of update, let me know. Nicole at livingfreeintennessee.com. I thought it'd be fun to start sharing a few more pictures. The other thing I wanted to show you guys, and we'll see if I can get this to work. So this is what we're dealing with before the event, right? There's projects out. That's relatively clean. Stuff on the picnic tables to be put away. This is like our hopes and dreams. Somebody found some black walnuts, I see right there. And then there's like feed and stuff that needs to be put away. Not terrible, but there's always like the in-process homestead project. So I was in the middle of processing garlic, and the garlic needs to go away. That's some of the lumber you see there. The generator our neighbor is picking up, the PVC field. And then over on the carport, like this is the area we usually have tables set up for potluck. There's like the laundry hanging out to dry. The boxes is for we're doing some harvesting later today. And then the canning station, which it's not too bad, but we have all of that stuff in the kitchen outside that I got to clean up. It's not that terrible. We actually use those things for events, but I've been like deep scrubbing and letting it dry. So that's sort of a typical like where we're starting as we get ready for events. So as of this morning before the show, the only thing left is the carport and your tools on the picnic table.
Yeah, which I already got like half of that.
Yeah, so not too bad. It used to be way worse.
Yeah, and I mean, that's once again controlled chaos because like there was a palm sander on the picnic table which came up for a project the other day, and I just haven't gotten around to getting it put back up yet. The 3 jumper wires that were sitting next to the garlic was supposed to go to the pasture yesterday, which it did. And then I wound up not putting them where they were supposed to get pre-staged. So when I went to put the girls to bed last night, I just took them out of the feed scoop and tossed them there. And then when I went over earlier today, I actually put those where they were supposed to go.
Yeah. Pack Rat says, our house, it has a crowd. Something's always going on, and it's usually quite loud. That sounds like a song lyric to a song I know. Yeah. It's kind of that way. Like we get these projects we start, and they get like, for me, harvesting and processing, if it's not like it has to go in a pickle jar, like the garlic, I can take my time processing it. I needed it to cure for a couple weeks. It's cured. I actually finished that this morning, so all the garlic is handled at this point. But between now and then, it had to sit there and develop its harder outer skin. So, I have a question for you. Why in the world it's raining? That's not the question for you, but it's raining. Do you need to go outside for anything?
Ask your question first.
Okay. Why in the world at this time of year would you be propagating plants?
Because I can.
Oh, this is the worst time of year. It's the second worst time of year to propagate plants.
If it works, it works.
So tell us what you're doing with that.
Most of what I'm doing is herbs, a lot of mint. Like I just took some cuttings off of some holy basil and some Thai basil, and I've got some of the pots that like are degradable, so you just drop the whole pot in the ground. So I'll put the cuttings inside for a couple of 3 or 4 days to let them stabilize after getting cut off of the plant, and then I'll move them out to a shaded area that's a lot cooler. And then once I feel like they'll actually survive wherever they're going to go, then I'll put them in and they just get mulched in really heavily. And it works usually.
Yeah.
Okay, now I'm going to go look to make sure I ain't going to get wet.
Yay, it's raining. We're so happy. Sorry. I mean, it's rained a lot this spring, but can you hear it? Probably because he has his mic on, you can.
You're going to hear it if I don't take this mic off.
Yeah. I don't know where he put the mic, but anyway, so, we could have gone no rain starting now through the end of the summer, which has been known to happen here, but getting a weekly rain of this variety, and this is actually a decent amount of rain, everybody's happy right now. They'll be a little less happy when the sun comes out afterwards and it starts heating things up. But yeah, he's double checking. Not like my roasting shack crates are outside right now, but they don't have anything in them, so it's fine. He's double checking, he hasn't left a lawnmower out or something, because we don't want to ruin our tools. Or battery operated tools are the worst. Like if the weed whacker's out in the rain because it's battery operated, that's not awesome. So I will say this: I've been canning beets outside this week, and that's been a huge blessing. A pack rat said we heard it. It's come a cropper. That's right. There's a lot of rain. So I set up my canning station outside, which you saw in that video. It's just a couple burners. They say you're not supposed to can on outside burners. If you can get one that's low enough and won't warp the pot, it actually works fine. And that one works great. So I always think about it at this time of year, like how glad I am that I can do that outside, because my mom used to do it inside in the summer. And that just like throws all that humidity from the water boiling and the heat from the canning into your house. So one of the things that when you're starting to homestead or starting to preserve is having a way to do it outside. You don't like you can get away with not, but if you have a camp stove that'll do it, or if you have a friend you can borrow a stove from, it really makes a big difference in your heating, in your cooling bill, or in the general atmosphere in your house if you can do a canning kitchen outside, which could be as simple as a burner on the front porch. Like I have a sink and stuff out there now, but I used to just put a table that was metal. I put a Coleman stove out and I canned outside. And over the years, those things have it's just gotten better over time as we do that. So I've been out in the food forest a lot. The blackberries are ripe in the food forest.
Okay.
So I was harvesting blackberries, and I was like hesitant to walk in and reach to the back because you know how blackberries are, right? And then I remembered thornless. So I just plumbed right in there and got those blackberries. You had those last night.
Okay.
Yeah. So the blackberries are coming on, and the food forest looks like it really needs me to go back through and figure out some chop and drop right now. Would you agree?
Yeah.
So some of the stuff that's in there, like we have weeds that are up to my shoulders. Those weeds are medicinal weeds, like goldenrod, like not really weeds.
Yeah.
But some of them I want to cut back to make sure that I know under there somewhere are some blueberry bushes that I don't want to die this year. And we have some squash plants out there. And so I don't know if I'm going to get to it, but I've already started clearing a few places where it was just obvious. that I had to. But my goal is to make sure the trees have a little space because they're kind of small still, and some of the other medicinal plants that we want, like yarrow, can take over.
Yeah. And I have yet to find a plant on this property or in the pasture that, according to the internet, does not have some form of a use.
Right. It's just a matter of if you let them squeeze the trees get disease, and then with the disease in the trees, we don't get fruit. So
I'm just making that point as far as the weeds.
Pack Rat says indoor canning in the summer is miserable. I want a summer kitchen in the country. Yep.
Mm-hmm.
Like I read stories of people putting up the old canvas tents that they used to have.
Yeah.
Like just putting up their canvas tent and doing it that way so it's covered. But really, you just need to not get wet. You could buy a pop-up for $100 at Walmart and strap it down real good because we get wind, and put a camp stove under that and you're done.
Yeah.
So if you're already a camper, then you already have that.
Mm.
Yep. So anyway, how are the squash and the compost doing?
Plants are big.
Yeah, I've already been harvesting off that. Did you know that?
Yeah, I mean, I looked the other day and didn't see anything on them.
Nothing on them right now. Which other day?
I don't remember.
Okay.
It was in the last couple of days.
Okay. Are there any female flowers, or are they all male?
That didn't look that hard.
Yeah, it was pretty hot for squash, although that microclimate has shade. So our compost bins are all kind of in shaded areas, which is where you need to put your compost. And they, so they were probably a little better off in that location than some of the other plants.
Yeah, I mean, that one gets afternoon sun, but a lot of morning shade because that hackberry is not dead.
Do you want the hackberry to be dead?
I gusseted that thing
Yeah.
pretty well with a chainsaw, and it still didn't die.
Boo, 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 boo. Doom, 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 doom. First ripe tomato of the season has come this week. It is a Siegler red stripe tomato. Actually, this one appears to have maybe crossed finally. It's a little more red than usual, but the seeds from this are going to be saved as the earliest tomato we got.
Okay.
I'm excited. We're about to have some really good cucumber and tomato salads.
Okay.
Are you ready for those?
Pretty sure.
Yeah. Did you like the beet and cucumber salad of the week?
Yeah, that one was actually pretty good.
So I cut up cucumbers. I pre-boiled and cooled and cut up beets. I added garlic powder and an Italian seasoning, balsamic vinegar reduction, so it's like syrupy, and lemon juice and onions and salt and pepper and Parmesan cheese. And I stirred that all up, and everybody liked it.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that was just like, what do I have that I can put in a salad? Because lettuce is done in Tennessee after this week.
Oh, I need to look at that one.
I have mine are blooming. They're
Yeah,
blooming, which means we're getting seeds next. And when we get seeds, I will collect the seeds for next year.
that's what I need to look at.
Yeah. So
I'm not sure if that one's for the one I've got in the AP might be further along.
yeah. So with that, usually the first ripe tomato comes and I get one every few days. Actually, it was just exceedingly early, and I'll probably start getting a few more next week. And then I'm out of town, and then you get to deal with it. Naturally. Yeah. And probably the biggest flush is going to start happening while I'm out of town. Sorry.
Is what it is.
Yeah. I can see if Lynn could come help.
Maybe.
Yeah, we'll see. Elderberries are still blooming. And the way I know that is I looked at Tactical this morning, and approximately on the lower left side of his beard was a cluster of beautiful flowers from an elderberry plant that he was mowing this morning, and he didn't know it, but he had put flowers in his beard. So then he told me today on the show notes that we're going to get some elderberries soon because they've been setting fruit. But I was like, and they're still blooming.
Yeah, some of them are.
Yeah. The funniest part was I was like, no, don't wipe it out. Go look in the mirror first. It's hilarious. So.
Which I saw nothing, so.
Yeah, I was more amused than he was, but I showed him one and he became amused by the picture. You were embracing your feminine side with your beard this morning, right?
Sure.
What are you looking for?
I don't know. I just heard somebody.
That's my foot.
Thought it was a cat.
It's not a cat. Yeah. So that'll happen. For the rabbit processing, our rabbits are kind of small.
Yeah, they are not growing fast.
Well, they're not the ideal size for processing. They're on a small size, but we can still process one and show people.
Yeah.
But Tim Riley reached out and was like, I've got some ready to go. Do you want them? And I was like, yeah. And he was going to come. And then he realized he was double booked this weekend. So in theory, at some point today, he's showing up with more, like with some larger rabbits. So we'll end up processing his rabbits, assuming they arrive. And if not, we'll just do a demo and not do all the rest of them.
Yeah.
But that's actually the power of community. Like, it's always nice when we do things like this, when other homesteaders are like, hey, I've got some rabbits that need to go too, or whatever.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's do you have their cage set up for the rabbit delivery?
No.
Okay, we need to make sure you do that right after this, because guess what we're doing right after the show?
Leaving.
We're leaving again. Why are we leaving?
Because somebody else has stuff to harvest.
So Michelle, who was here at our tomato wall build, who had been here at a processing class before, has a farm stand, and it's like an honor system farm stand. So we were like totally talking about that while she was here, and she hasn't opened it up yet. And she was like, I got a lot of stuff to harvest though, and she's not ready to open up her stand. So she was like, if you want to come over and harvest, y'all can have whatever you want from the garden. Otherwise, I'm donating the food to the church. So then I, as the person who loves to cook and preserve food, was like, yeah, we'll be there Friday afternoon. Hopefully it'll be raining because it's hot. And if it's raining, it's less hot. And I'm from Oregon. I have webbed feet, so I don't care about getting rained on. I kind of care about getting lightninged on, but I don't care about getting rained on. Do you care about getting rained on?
Right now, no.
No. In the winter, he cares about getting rained on.
Yes.
That's a different kind of rained on.
Yeah.
Yeah. So so we're going to be heading out to her farm. Plus, I get to see how she does her farm stand and get to see, like, they're working on some pretty cool things. I think her house is a geodesic dome.
I don't remember. I'm more interested in seeing the infrastructure than the harvesting part. So
yeah, I'm interested in both.
I mean, I'm interested in both, but I'm always first time on somebody else's property. It's like I'm more interested in seeing the infrastructure so I can steal ideas.
Yeah. So we've been having a lot of fun going and seeing what everybody has going on to steal ideas from them. Like, we're totally stealing ideas from Amani and River.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that was cool. I've been greeted every morning in my quiet morning coffee with something interesting.
Okay.
The
one.
There's a duck not going to bed. She hasn't been going to bed for a week or two.
2 or 3 probably.
That means we're close to baby ducks. If so, there's a duck setting eggs somewhere up there. I haven't figured out where. I haven't been that worried about it. I was just like, whatever. But she gets up every morning when I'm having coffee, complains because none of her friends are around. Rats all the way down the hill, swims in the pond, and then comes back up the hill to her nest.
Yeah.
And I think she sneaks into the coop sometime in the morning to get food.
Probably.
I mean, there's bugs and frogs and all sorts of stuff everywhere. So I found out where the shower frog lives today.
A hole somewhere?
No, he's under the worm bin under the tomato wall build that hasn't quite been finished yet.
Mm.
I went to check to see if it was dried out to make sure the worms were okay. So I had to slide it out, and I opened it up, and it seems like it might be a little dry, but not totally dry. And then I like pulled back some of the top layer, and I saw the wood chips were plenty wet under that.
Yeah.
So And then I looked, and there was a frog like looking up at me from the back, like, why did you pull my house out? So we actually have 2 shower frogs now. And by shower frog, I mean they hang out near where the outdoor shower used to be. So they've always been called shower frogs. There was a little teeny baby one, but it was bigger last night.
Yeah.
And that little teeny baby one like climbs up my wall, which looks really cool. Because they can just like stick to the wall like Spider-Man.
They tend to get bigger.
Yeah. I also have a swim spa frog that's like huge. He's like this, almost the size of a grapefruit. He's like gigantic. Maybe not. Maybe more an orange. I think the grapefruit is an exaggeration.
Okay.
But he likes to hang out on that side of the swim spa, but it's always wet under there. So
yeah.
And I don't know if that's from the rain or if the spa is leaking somehow.
I think it's just that never completely dries out.
Yeah, we've had a lot of rain.
Yeah.
I have, like, I'm not heating the swim spa, guys, at all. There's no electricity being used to heat it at this time. And it was too hot the other day.
Yeah.
That's how hot it was. Through an insulated cover.
So it's black.
It's black. That's true. I did leave it open one night, overnight, and that brought it down about 4 degrees.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I've always read about people installing cooling systems on their swim spa, and I was like, why would you do that? Now I know why.
Mm-hmm.
Yep. Rather than installing a cooling system, though, I think putting it in the shade would make a difference.
Okay.
Yeah. You know how you put it in the shade?
Lots of money to build infrastructure.
Or you put the 10 by 20 shade tent over it.
Okay.
That's a lot less money.
It's a lot of work.
Not that much.
On the side of a hill.
The pop-up, not the big one.
Mm.
It's like an easy up.
Okay.
It's just longer.
Okay.
Okay.
Say that.
Yeah. The problem is the easy up isn't tall. And the cover, you know, you've seen.
Yeah.
The cover just about killed me 2 days ago. Did you see that going on?
No.
I dropped it 3 times. It fell on me.
So you didn't ask for help?
I did not ask for help. You were busy.
I'm always busy.
Yeah. I don't usually need help, but for some reason, that time, it was like not happening. It was actually really funny. It's one of those, like, you kind of wish there was a camera on it because you would be like laughing at the person the whole time. Like the time when I fell on my butt when I was trying to scoop out wood chips and you were trying not to laugh, but you laughed anyway. Remember when we got, you were like,
when we were on the trailer?
Yeah.
Yeah.
It was like straight down on my butt. And I'm like, now there's mud all over my pants and I have to change them. And I only have 1 pair of clean pants left.
Yeah, it's not as bad as when I ate it coming down the hill with Stormy.
Yeah. I was like, this is the place where you have to be careful not to fall. He just goes thunk on his butt. Like that. I was like, yeah, like that. Yeah. That's the part of the hill I'm not real thrilled about riding down on the 4-wheeler either.
Yeah.
Because it's more like sliding. It's like a controlled slide.
It depends.
Yeah, I actually rolled on it. So this week would have been the week traditionally before I learned better plant care methods where my plants started to die. Because it was 100 degrees, it was relentless, it was very humid. It was like humid, but at the same time things were drying out. And the plants have gone into this a lot stronger because of our composting practices and the compost tea. So that helped. Some of my Swiss chard was pretty stressed out though. But I hit them with a calcium magnesium spray with compost tea this week. I hit some of his plants with it as well. And I hit the compost pile squash with it. And I would say at this point, I'm impressed with how well the plants are doing right now.
Yeah.
So the only plants I have that I'm really like looking at them sideways are the 3 tomatoes in the mushroom garden, which were stressed before I put them in there because they were root bound.
Yeah.
And I put them in a big thing of, like, I dug a little bowl out area in the wood chips, put compost in there and then put them in there, and it's a new bed. So we'll see how they do. And at this point, if I'm putting any new tomatoes anywhere, I'm breaking them off of the tomato wall, rooting them, and then putting them somewhere rather than using anything I did from seed, because everything I did from seed is just too stressed out. I mean, like, that's why I gave up on all that.
Yeah.
Because it was just like, it's better just to root new ones at this point. And if you do that, that's another thing. You can start doing that at this time of year, and you'll get later crop tomatoes. So you take the sucker that you're taking off to trim, and then you put it in the soil and you keep it watered, but not in direct sun, and it will root. Tomatoes are magic that way.
Yeah.
Very easy to propagate. I'll just take one and put it in the tomato wall thing in the liquid, and it will root.
Yeah.
So that works pretty well. How are yours doing?
Tomatoes?
All your plants after this heat. Do you see like an impact on them?
Depends on how old the plant is. The stuff that I put in like a couple of weeks ago was fine, but it's also under like 2 inches of bagged pine shavings. So like they're mulched in really well. There's some stuff that I put in like a week ago that was not happy the last couple of days, but it's alive and okay. And then there's some other, like, I had to go to Walmart for something, and they had for like $2 one of those things with like 15 basil plants coming up out of one little pot.
I've put some of those in the ground.
Yeah, and so I picked one of those up and broke it up and stuck it all over down there, and like yesterday they were all like looking like we just want to die. But they've been in the ground for like 2 days. Today they're kind of like, we're alive but not happy. So, and that, like, all that stuff in the rock garden is in like direct sun all day.
There's some extra PVC. We could make a PVC shade structure.
Eh,
You'd have to put rebar in and put them over the rebar in that area, probably.
you couldn't even do that.
Yeah. So, yeah, my plants are doing pretty well. Obviously, the early spring plants like the peas and the broccolis are gone, but the chard is hanging in there. Carrots, I've had better luck with carrots this year than I've ever had with carrots, and I didn't plant them on purpose. The carrots are in my garden because I took a bunch of old seeds and broadcast them over the beds when I first started them this spring as sort of a cover for it, right?
Yeah.
A cover crop is the word I was not thinking of right then. And the carrots did the best out of all of that for whatever reason. So, and I've thinned them. I've been like, we had some in that stir fry I did last night because I was pulling carrots out. And I think I can do carrots even better next year as that soil gets more biochar in it and that sort of thing. And loosens up a little bit more because the biochar actually is helping address the clay issue for us.
Yeah.
And organic matter. And, like the one bed number 1, I haven't replanted since the garlic came out. It's been 2 weeks, that has some things. It has like a pepper plant. It has a like a sweet potato slip in there and some of those carrots from the overcropping.
Yeah.
But I want to put compost on top from the compost pile, like 3 to 4 inches to top it off again. Cause the soil level always goes down in beds, especially the new beds. And I've been like not doing it. I've been like toolbox fallacying this because I really want biochar with it. That's inoculated, which I think we can get done now.
Yeah.
Yeah. So it's just been, but we literally couldn't in June with our travel schedule. It was just not, and then the rain. So with that, I'm having a lot of fire ant issues in the beds, and I'm using the orange oil to beat them back, but they keep coming back. And I think that's just an indication that my soil in the beds for this first year is not ideal yet. Because as the soil gets better, it's less likely the fire ants will be attracted to it. So I'm told by Jack.
and other people.
Yeah, I'll let you know how that goes. Like, we're not there yet. That's all I know. We're just not there yet. Green beans are going to pop this week for me.
Okay.
They're this big.
Okay.
So then they need to be that big or that big. And then it's my first green bean plant. So I planted my green beans later than every other farmer in the area. So they've been like weeks so far of green beans. But I was like, my bed's not ready. And I'm not ready to take the things out that like the broccoli. And then finally I seeded under the broccoli. And then those are the ones that are up. And then the beans that I seeded, a week after those are in the bed number 2. And those are doing well too. I'll probably put some more green beans in bed number 1 when I get the mulch in.
Yeah.
And I have cucumbers in bed number 4. So my cucumbers are behind everybody else too, because I was just behind. So Backrat says we're up with fire ants playing whack-a-mole and with mound control. Yeah, that's literally it. It's like you see a mound, you orange oil the mound. I actually will bust the mound open so it goes deeper with the hopes that I'm getting the queen. But
I had a fun one the other day.
oh, tell me.
I had one right where I was putting the top little mini swale in the rock garden, and flipped the rock over to get access to the whole thing, drenched it in orange oil, took a stick and shoved like 5 holes all the way down and filled all the holes up with orange oil. Come out the next day and there's 2 beds, one on either side.
You didn't get the queen. Well, maybe you did.
Drenched them. Come out the next day and they were trying to get into the oregano. I was like, no. I will tear half of this thing apart to make sure I murder all of you before you get into that oregano. And so I think I finally got them. But yeah.
Debbie asks, Pack Rat, have you seen where sheep graze? Fire ants tend to disappear. Have you noticed that where our sheep graze?
I've probably seen less fire ants over there this year than I did last year.
We still have some.
They're still up there. I don't know how much that's going to, deteriorate by next year, but we're also, basically on a 3-month cycle over there. So, the paddock the sheep were just on, they won't be there for 3 months.
Yeah.
So it's not like they're heavily grazing all the time.
Yeah, but that probably wouldn't improve the soil if they were heavily grazing all the time.
Yeah, like
60 days might be more ideal for regeneration, but yeah.
I would, just from the plant management side of it, I would say for that pasture, 6 to 8 weeks would be ideal for a rotation, but I'm not going to do that. Like, I'm keeping them on the 3-month.
Yeah, it just makes sense. And we've had good luck on the parasite side by doing that.
Yeah.
So that's what the vet told us to do, the local vet. Your local veterinarian for livestock, if they've dealt with the livestock you're raising, has a lot of good advice for you specific to your area. Like, she told me that we didn't need sulfur.
Yeah.
Because there's so much from when they used to burn coal on the ground that you just don't need to do it. You don't need to supplement it. Selenium, on the other hand, totally do.
She knows which hollers that's applicable to and which ones it isn't.
Yeah, she's amazing.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I'm glad, and she's been a vet for a long time. So like, I'm really glad she was the one I came across.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that was super awesome. As far as our Holler Neighbor community, we've been kind of ramping up when we do Holler Neighbor dinners, but not all Holler Neighbors come to all Holler Neighbor dinners. That's probably the best way to say it. And like, I've been trying to go Tuesday, Thursday, Sunday, but like this Tuesday was not a Tuesday for that to happen. So I didn't do Tuesday. And so we just did Sunday, Thursday. And Sunday, I had a really good time on Sunday. Even though I was tired from being out of town the day before, And I had been pretty much rhinocerosing all day, which means like working one thing after the next, right? I had a great time at dinner with Nighthawk and Lynn.
Yeah.
And she brought charcuterie like she always does, which is always delicious.
Yeah.
Yeah. And it was just a fun time to catch up, and I didn't feel like pressure. So during the week, it's always like Nighthawk's going to have to go get to bed so he can get up in the morning, those sorts of things. And I think Sunday's probably my favorite dinner night for Holler Neighbor dinners because it just feels more relaxed that day. But it was really fun, and I found out that so Lynn had heard me talking about the country store idea. Do you see something out there?
I'm just moving.
Okay. And she's like, Nicole, you know, it would work really well as base camp basement for the country store. And she's like, I mean, there's a key code to get down there. I can lock the house from down there to up to the house, and we can have hours. What do you think of that?
Possible.
Literally, when we started talking about the company store or the country store idea, I was like, if we could leverage different people's things into one membership-based store, and people can come here for stuff and then maybe advertise for some local stuff, I don't know. It would be like both a way for us to connect with other homesteaders, but also to connect people with more locally produced food. That's been sort of the core, right? And then stuff we produce here. And the membership-based option really seems to be what works best for people.
Yeah.
Which means you can't do it over state lines. But when we have a renter, they will get a membership with their rental. So if they rent the glamper, they're a member for a week.
Yeah.
It comes with it, right? So it's just a way to and I'm working on figuring out the legal structure for that.
Yeah.
But I was like, but we can put a farm stand up. So we just sort of put up this little thing at the last event. And then I'm like, the lean-to on the roasting shack could be used. And the basement had crossed my mind, but when somebody's renting there, it is not fair to turn their basement into a country store.
Yeah.
That's not what they rented. So I wasn't even going to ask her, but it had occurred to me because it's cool. We can plug freezers or fridges in. And she was like, oh no, I would have been fine with that. Like whatever.
Yeah.
So now I'm sort of starting, because it's a classroom, but it's also, it like could be serve as both a classroom and the store.
Yeah.
With a key code.
Yeah.
So I don't know. Like we literally could launch that within a month.
Probably.
But we need people to put their stuff in the store.
Yeah.
So, because otherwise it's going to be coffee and lamb.
And whatever else we happen to have.
Yeah, dried herbs.
Yeah.
But I know so many people doing so many different things, so I just feel like it could be pretty cool. And my only other thing is, how do we keep it from being a bookkeeping nightmare?
That's your problem.
You have to participate if it's Nito.
I'm not saying I won't participate, but you're the one that does all the bookkeeping stuff.
And I also found out that Lynn is probably moving sometime in the next few months because she found a place to buy. Yeah. So this has been opening all sorts of questions because we keep talking to you guys about this Holler Homestead, Holler Hub concept. I call it the Holler Hub. I hate that name, but that's the only name I have right now. Where we're able to connect more people, have some more temporary stays, and start opening up, sort of like lifting up the petticoats of how we're doing the regenerative ag stuff for good and bad. Like sometimes we make horrid mistakes, like buying the wrong bulkheads for the tomato wall.
Oh, God.
Yeah, for example. And should I say it?
Go for it.
So I could rent, like we can rent base camp again, right? And it's a great, like people love to come in here. It's a pretty cool house. We actually need to replace the roof on it this summer. That's a whole nother chapter of, I don't know how we're going to get that done, but we got to get it done. The problem is they screwed a metal roof into 2 layers of asphalt shingle and it's always kind of leaked and we're always chasing the leaks. And now we just need to take all of that metal off, get rid of the asphalt shingle, inspect the decking, replace anything that needs to be replaced, and then put the metal back on and have a real roof.
Yeah.
Because tired of chasing leaks. And that takes a lot of work. And we were talking about planning that on the hottest week of the summer so far, which none of us wanted to be on a roof that summer. But the other thing is, as we talk about the Holler Hub, the way I envision it happening is that people can come and they have access to our library. They have access to a central lodge where they can hang out. They might take a class there. We might do a cheese making class. We might have Christina out to do some work with veterans on PTSD, some group work for some guys that want to do something like that. We might have a massage therapy week or somatic stuff. If Jenny can come out and do that. Like, we know a lot of people who can do things like that. Or we can have projects where we're like putting a solar system in and people learn how to do that. And that's kind of what's been buzzing in the background here. And for that to happen, people have to be interested, first of all.
Yeah.
But Base Camp already has a classroom in the basement, would make a great country store, and is pretty much a decent hangout lodge upstairs.
Yeah.
And we could rent one of those bedrooms, like as part of the pack, like if somebody wants a bedroom to rent.
Yeah.
They're in the lodge sort of thing. Because the lodge would have open and closed hours. It's not just whatever.
Yeah.
So I'm trying to figure out if it's time for us to make that move, even though we don't have a lot of people here for this yet. Or if we should do one more cycle of somebody renting it and maybe go that direction.
Yeah, that's a big question right now.
Do you have any inclinations on that one?
Not yet.
No? Have you thought about it much?
A little bit.
Mm-hmm. Because it would be like right as we go into winter.
Yeah.
And, actually fall camping season is a good time to come visit, though.
It's true.
But what would that look like financially? Because getting the rent helps pay for the mortgage.
Yeah.
That's where my struggle is. It's like, how does that work financially?
Yeah. I think that's the only real question to that whole scenario, is the financial side of it.
Or do we launch a membership and the membership pays for the mortgage so that we can use that as a center?
Yeah.
I'm having this conversation in front of 2,500 people right now, in case one of those 2,500 people has some ideas, Matt Sersley, about what we might do for, I just called him Matt. His name is Matthew, but Jack always calls him Matt. And now I'm falling into that habit because I hear him say, Matthew prefers to be called Matthew, just so you know.
Now I'm just going to start calling him Matt.
He's not a jerk about it, but yeah, I prefer to call people what they prefer to be called. Yeah, like what ideas do we have for that? Because I almost think, like, I do have a sense that it's time to transition, but we've got so much work to do to get that done.
Yeah. I mean,
and it's literally going into winter.
I think we could do some fall classes.
Yeah.
I don't know exactly what.
How to run a roasting business with Christmas rush without losing your mind. Come out and see Nicole Sauce lose her mind.
Yeah, you don't start that till later in the year.
Ish. I have Self-Reliance Festival in October.
That's true.
Yeah. That's a whole week of stuff. Yeah, we could do some classes in the fall. Do people want to come to classes in the fall? Or do we do work weekends? Or do we just set up, I feel like there's stuff we can do that would be fun. But I think we should serve the people who come. And that's different for different people.
Which also begs the question, what would people want to come do? So if you're listening to this, send an email.
Yeah. I see emails faster than I see comments usually.
Yeah.
I do see comments usually. I mean, on Telegram, the LFTN group, I usually see the stuff there, although right now there's been some really deep discussion on that network about like people navigating their divorces and stuff and recovering from stuff like that. So that hasn't really been about what people want to come here for, if they do want to come here. But there's also, that's a good way to connect with other people in the LFTN community. I see those usually. If I'm on the road, though, I may miss a day or two of stuff there.
Yeah, if you want me to see something, you better send it via email.
Yeah, that's true. But it's really been like, I really feel like we're being pushed in that direction right now with the timing of everything.
Yeah.
So, but I don't want to just launch that on feelings.
Agreed.
So it's kind of been a big deal anyway. You know what we forgot to look at? I wanted to show, it was, for some reason, it fell off. Can you explain what you did to the rock garden there?
Oh, yeah. So on the right-hand picture, there's a rock in the top left-hand corner. And that's where, just to the right of that rock, which is just randomly there, it serves no purpose. But that's where most of the water comes down. And underneath of that, you can see what is now kind of a footpath, which is my usual path to get down to the cabin. But that's where all the water used to go and would wash everything out on top of the septic tank. So what there is now is I just extended that berm out from the rock wall to where that random rock is, which turns the whole top of that and of the rock garden into basically a little mini swale. And then on the left-hand picture, you can kind of see in the top of both pictures, you can see the blue dolly. So you can kind of have a point of reference where those are, or the angle of those pictures. So on the right-hand side of the left picture, you can, towards the bottom, you can see where all the water goes. It's kind of hard to tell the contour from the pictures, but it basically flows from the top left across the top and then goes straight down towards the bottom right-hand corner. And so you've got basically a little mini swale going there. And then everything that I call the rock garden is below that little mini swale. So as that, the water soaks in, it kind of waters everything downhill of that. And which, I mean, I think that's kind of why those plants have done well through the heat. Is the last couple of days I had the garden hose just laying on the top of that little mini swale. And so at night I would just turn it on for like 3 or 4 minutes and fill that thing up with water and just let it soak in. And the primary point of that was to get all of the new dirt to kind of settle in and hopefully get something to start germinating in that. But that's probably another reason why that area has done as well as it has through the heat.
Yeah. So that's part of the erosion mitigation too, because we were like, A, you don't want water flowing into your septic tank.
Yeah.
A. But B, also that helps mitigate the erosion, like the topsoil going away, which you also don't want.
Yeah.
By slowing the water.
And I had put, I don't know when that was, like 2 years ago, I had put a little miniature berm going across there, and it was basically level at this point. So at least when we started putting the swim spa in, and so it was definitely catching a lot of the sediment, which is why the latest little iteration of working on that was extending that dirt berm out because it wasn't high enough to catch all of the water. It would get overwhelmed and then start washing stuff out again.
Yeah, the next thing we need to do is reattach the hose that brings the water away from the roasting shack off the roof.
Yeah, I moved that to mow earlier.
Yeah, well, we put that back on because it'll undercut the roasting shack. So you got, I mean, with the amount of rain we have here, you just got to think about erosion.
Yeah,
So
it's always an issue.
that's all I got for this week. How about you?
I think that was about it.
All right, folks, if you like the show and want to support the work we're doing here, send us an email with your ideas and input on the Holler Hub project, Base Camp, and the Country Store. Also, consider getting your coffee where? Holler Roast. We are powered by Holler Roast on the Homestead. It starts that, yeah, his cup is empty. It's such a sad moment. Anyway, consider getting your coffee at hollerroast.com. With that, go out, make it a great week.